Alright, let's do a little recap of the recent over the board tournament I played in Jyväskylä, Finland. It's the Heart of Finland every summer. The biggest classical tournament in Finland each year. And usually the strongest too. It's a 9-rounder, 1 week long tournament. This is the round 1. I was seed number 28. So I was playing down on the first round. I had the Vilhotella on my as a black here as opponent, who's 1810 elo rated. I think his Finnish rating is a little higher. Anyways, he's pretty young and haven't ever played him before, so no idea what to expect. Anyways, white pieces, what can go wrong? Overall, the tournament was pretty mediocre. Like I gained what I was supposed to. I scored about what I was supposed to score, but it was a little weird. But more about that later on. Let's look at the first round. So I went d4, d5, and we go with c4, challenge the center, and my opponent plays the Slav defense. Just defends their pawn. Very solid stuff. I played this same stuff on black side too. And of course, annoying as I am, I play the most annoying variation. Exchange. Bang bang. Draws, maybe. But it's very dangerous, I say. Definitely if you take the mindset that this is already a draw, then you are probably gonna have a bad time as black. But this game is definitely a weird one. So we played a little Londonish type of move, bishop f4, e3. It's kind of London-like, but the difference that the c file is open, so it's completely different. Here my opponent played knight f6. I think knight c6 tends to be the more popular, but I don't think there's anything wrong with knight f6 either. There is some like a line it might be relevant. I was thinking some like a there is a line where black goes for the b2 and the white line is there, and this does defend the d5, and I was thinking that this might be relevant here. Of course the pawn is not pressured here, so this is not a double attack in a way. Also it's white to move to. Well, I don't really think that makes a much of a difference. My plan is to go e3, knight c3. Started with knight c3, didn't really see a reason why not. This is not really a big of a threat. Black can always just like, well, they can deal it with this, but of course that might be a little awkward, but they can play a6. Well, that's what my opponent actually played. But they can also probably play like e6 there and give you a check, and that's probably very unpleasant, so white can't even go there instantly. Of course e6 has the downside, it does block the bishop in. Anyways, my opponent didn't want to deal with any of that. a6, it's one of those small pawn moves on the side, but it's actually pretty useful for black, so definitely not waste of time. It stops this stuff, and also it sometimes prepares for the queen roaming in, or even this one is like you have a b5 at some points. Sometimes white can sack on the b5 if they after the check, but usually it works after the bishop has been locked out. Well, we kind of see that in the game, but just in reverse. This feels like I was playing the exchange Slav, but things that usually happen to black happen to me here as white. So e3, we free the bishop, defend the pawn. Seems solid in the plans. So here, well, this is the main line, I think, but I played bishop e2. The idea is just to avoid the Like if you bring the knight out here, black's play comes a little too easy with the pins here, and this is often a little problematic piece when you can come out with it without weakening the b7 to stuff here or like double attacks. But also it's sometimes a bit uncomfortable even here. But usually the bishop comes out here, but this bishop e2 just fights for, well, black could play here, and that's normal. But at least then they didn't get to trade anything, and the bishop is still here, and maybe we can go trade it this way at some point if we need to. So my opponent, this is probably not a good move, I think, because taking here is it's risky at best. I've known to play this as black too, not in maybe in this position, but like go steal this pawn and try to survive, and it's not always fun. I think bishop f5 is probably the more normal response here, or well, e6 is more solid too, but this is definitely a little risky business. Well, I used the normal trick. Often in the main line you have the bishop here. You can play here knight e2, let black take and just castle away. But since I played the bishop e2, it's a little different. My knight is hanging here, so I don't have the normal, the main line knight e2. So I used the other trick to defend the pawn. a3. Oh wait, what? But it's hanging. But the point is that a3 takes away b4, and then old tricky knight a4 traps the queen. No squares anywhere. So obviously my opponent did not fall for that. They played bishop f5 now, and now they might be threatening to take the pawn, and they have an escape square here at least. But I tried to use the fact that the queen is on here, and this stuff is usually a plan anyways in the Slav defense. So I played knight a4 with the idea that we are just gonna play b4 and maybe stick the knight to c5, which would be nice. Well, my opponent really went for it though. Queen a5. And here, well, I pretty much have to play b4. If I go back, then this pin starts to be a little unpleasant at some point. If I try to defend it here, maybe even e5, or just a typical tempo opening the bishop sacrifice here. If white takes, then black can probably take here, or even maybe here, but like something like this and this, and well, I don't know, takes here first. There's always this stuff, and the rook's pinned and the bishop is coming here, and it's just miserable. Usually the same stuff happens to black by white, but here my opponent is going for it. So of course not going back, I have to probably play b4. And here my opponent, well, if he goes back, then he just gave me a lot of free moves. So he chopped, bang, bang, check. And for a long while I was thinking that I have queen d2 here earlier before I played this. But this is no good, because again black has this ridiculous e5. Tempo on the bishop, defends the queen. So if white takes here, knight e5, it's my queen. I can't keep it here. If I take here, this is a check. If I go here, there's forks around here. If I go here, he can win my rook, for instance, this way. I don't know where the queen should go, but of course this guy is trapped too, but it's not enough though. Black can, for instance, go here, and I trap the rook, but they already have extra pawn on this flank. I have an extra pawn here, but it's not good at all. Also my pawn, every piece here is gonna clump down, and these guys are playing and the rook's soon coming out too, so that would be horrible. So queen d2 does not work, but I did see earlier that I can go king f1 after b4 takes, king f1. I assume that's the only move. I haven't really looked too deeply with the computer. I spoiled myself in few places here in this game and the other games too. So there might be something the computer might see that I did not or haven't seen yet. Of course, now black has two passed pawns. They are a piece down. My king's a bit weird, and it takes a while to untangle this mess here. So black has definitely some compensation. It's not enough. I know what computer says here, and it's not enough, not even close. But it's interesting anyways. And it's not always easy to stop those pawns rolling. So my opponent plays e6, frees the bishop. I was actually much more worried about something knight e4-ish, threatening some kind of a perpetual at least, or maybe go take the rook. So I have to probably stay and defend the square here, and I don't know, maybe rook comes in somehow, like there's also b5, but somehow my knight is always kind of pretty solid on b6, even though it looks ridiculous, but black has hard time attacking it. Like my bishop covers this square, and if the rook comes here, we can always take here and defend the knight. And then black's position crumbles down. I mean, in the game, my knight did go there anyways, until later on. So I thought this kind of a, while I'm really uncoordinated, this could have been something, but I'm not sure there's actual problems here after knight f3. I just covered these. There's no knight c3. And well, there might be like something like this, but even there we probably can pin the queen. Can't take here. I was just thinking that maybe there would be stuff here, but unlikely since there's the queen pin. Alright, so e6 happened in the game. I develop. My opponent wants to castle. Again, I was kind of happy that these are not the fastest moves. Not sure I know, like I'm not sure like where is the actual faster moves, like at some point like rook c8 probably should have been played, because it does also come with this threat here. Like maybe the knight, well, maybe even start with the rook c8, so we don't block the bishop with the knight. And then you have to question where to put the knight. Like I think I was thinking of this move in a way that, no, it doesn't work here. It worked after e6, but it doesn't work here because the takes is not good. I have no mate here. I mean, I don't know. Maybe this is good, but I doubt it. It probably is not. My back rank's even worse. I don't know. Maybe we have to sack the knight here. Or bishop d3. Just to block this. I don't know if rook's defending this and the knight is covering this, and probably should work. Knight here doesn't, again, probably just go knight f3, cover this. But I don't know, stuff like this or this were what concerned me during the game. Not this like a really e6 get castled. I mean, of course it's solid and safe, but you have sacked a piece, so I feel like black should be faster. So I wanted this bishop away. They could go here. I was prepared to play f3, I think. Kind of get myself some rooms here. Room for f2 for the king. And also an f3 kind of covers the knight jumps too, so it's not the worst thing in the world. Of course, the knight is now trapped in a way, so there could be some funny business with knight move somewhere, but you probably can live with this. I don't know, take there somewhere. I'm pretty sure I'm solid enough. Anyways, my opponent left the bishop here. I guess they could have gone here, but I'm not sure the h file is gonna help them too much in an attack. But maybe their king would have been a lot safer in this way. Because this b5 I just took here. Now the pawns are messed up. His trump card is here. The pawns rolling on the queen side though. But this is just an annoying move. I don't have to keep the pawn up. He probably would have even enough compensation if I keep the knight up somewhere like here. I'm not sure actually. There's so many weak pawns there too. Well, I need to get the king somehow out and the rook in and somewhere. White is still probably a lot better. Anyways, this is much better. And well, here I probably could have left the knight there. But since it's not obvious that like it's at some point won't end up trapped if I let the black get king castled and all, I decided, nah, let's just simplify a little bit. Chop chop. And then I was kind of happy with the next plan too. Like this bishop it's kind of nice, but it's hitting nowhere. And it's very hard to get through these pawns to defend this against these pawns running. So I decided, nah, I'll trade it off against this so knight doesn't join the party either. Even though it looks a little funny giving up the bishop pair, but what can you do? Sometimes you have to do what you have to do. Alright, so rook's coming in, maybe king sneaks in there. I mean, takes, I don't know what that is, but I'm also kind of happy with the next move too. Like my pieces are on this side. I threw in g4. Not only we kind of maybe open the rook up, but also give king a luft to connect the rooks. But also make like a start to fight at the black's king side there. And also this is a tempo, nice. So black went to knight, rook c3, knight was pinned, so of course he can't take here. Here I was thinking either I chop instantly, and I was thinking that if he takes with the king and tries to keep the pawns intact, I win this one. Like they can't defend it. It's no good. Probably fine. Now we have a fast pawn here. We have the extra piece. Mine is as fast as these guys. Of course the king is a bit shaky, but what can you do? I mean, they could probably should take with the pawn, and I was thinking something like this, and I don't know, but at some point I realized that if I do this too early, these rooks could swing in and be annoying. I mean, I think I can play here and there's no h5 business or anything here. But I just don't know. Didn't think about like this would be a good idea, opening the g file against my king here wide open. So instead I build on the pressure here. No need to take. The knight spinned. They gave a check. I put the king in there and they start to push their pawns. I do let the pawn get all the way here. Horrible. Okay, so threatening something here or taking, or maybe check and then taking and then doing stuff here. Probably this is the most annoying threat. Also I have an idea here is that take these pawns while the knight is pinned. And my opponent defended the d7 check and also defends the f6, so I have no winning the f6. And well, I think here I was considering this already. I decided I'll threaten this d5 first though. Also it was kind of handy to not have the bishop kind of hanging on there all the time. Like I'm relying on the pin, so it's not takeable, but this is much easier to play with the bishop here, and it does stuff. They defended the d5, and here I think I should have gone with this idea to take g7 and then the knight pin chop chop there. Even though even there we have to be a little careful we don't at some point, I don't know, let's random move here is that this does not work, but I saw this kind of stuff. I can take the knight and take the rook. Or also I can just take the rook and the knight's the pin still. But I thought, yeah, this looked really promising. But I saw another idea and then I got distracted by it. It probably is as good as this one too, but so I saw that the rook a5, they can't really defend d5 anymore. I have 3 attackers there. They have 3 defenders, but one of them is pinned. Alright, so they attacked my rook. I mean, there's nothing they could do much. Maybe push the pawn, what was better. And here I think I thought I blundered. Like I could take the pawn at any point. But I was thinking that this guy is not doing anything. Let's include that in the game and threaten to take this one or that one. And then my opponent played b3 and then I was like, wait, what? This does not work, but during the game I thought this did anyways. I can take here. And this is what I was scared of. We can just take the queen. They can take my rook. And I thought that this way I lose a rook. Which I do. But too bad for black. They get checkmated in meanwhile like this and... Oh, if you go there you lose the rook or... It's just checkmate in like few moves. But something like this. If you keep the rook, then rook b7. Threatens mates in few squares. There's no defense. I did not see that. Didn't bother calculating long enough there. I'm not sure how much time I had at this point though. At this point I decided, nah, we'll take it. I allowed this, but I can always defend it with the rook b1. My opponent took once, I took with the queen, again the pin here. And they went rook b2. I didn't really fancy doing anything too fancy, so just rook b1. But I was not really happy with my life at this moment anymore. Felt like I let them have something. Here I was kind of expecting rook c1. I felt like this is too slow. I started to push the a5. This of course doesn't work. Well, also it doesn't threaten anything, but there's the fork here, so... And the knight's still pinned. And here I don't know how I was supposed to do it. Like, I saw this move as a possibility. I could also defend with the bishop here. But yeah, this kind of forces the rook c2. Now I have no fork here anymore, but I don't know. Felt like a way to go. But yeah, it's annoying that I let the pawn all the way there. He played this little slower move here. Takes so long to get all the way there. I gave a check. And here I saw that this is good. Based on the fact that I have a check here. If you go there, you get checkmated. And if king goes this way, I have this here. I don't know, maybe here I'll take. They'll take, I win this guy. I'm up a pawn and have a deep passer here, so I assume this is winning. But it's queen endgame though, so you always get a bit nervous, like my king is not so safe, like if the queen could get somewhere around here. Start checking like crazy. I assume this is winning, it probably is, but I found then I saw even better move, at least I thought so. I think it is. So here, instead of this d5, not hitting this guy's. But the main point is just we're just gonna queen instead. Opponent played rook c2, defends the pawn. And I just get pushing. Now we are threatening this and maybe takes and push. Make another queen. Right, so my opponent played king g8. They wanna get out of this check. I mean, probably anything is winning here. I almost did blunder though, because I saw this line and I was thinking that at the moment there is a big obstacle in my vision, board vision. Seems like there's a lot of stuff here on this 6th rank. I calculated this, takes, has to block, and I go here. But the bishop, pawn and the knight has cleared up here, and this here would be a kind of a pain. If king goes to the back rank, bang. No good. I don't know, maybe I have to go up and at least black should have a perpetual or something crazy here. And I was kind of close to going for this too. Here white could still like bail out. After this moment we don't have to go here, but it gets kind of scary, like bishop e4, but it's kind of weird. And I did give up my fast pawn there. Anyways, I played queen e7. Just to support this guy. Also, I was kind of happy that we have this also covered. I was a little worried at some point, like something like take and take. If I take here, for instance. I tried to avoid any counterplay here anywhere. Opponent played h6, gives some room for the king. I think he was really low on time at this point. I don't think I didn't have a lot either, but we're at the move 34. Not yet at 40, so these moves were definitely accurate. I took, well, here I didn't see any defense for my opponent anymore, because I just pushed it through. They can defend with the rook here, but then I saw this distracting one of the defenders of d8. And yeah, in this it's handy to have this covered with the queen. Not that this would have helped them anyways. I promote. I mean, they can take, of course, but the problem is that this a pawn also dies here in the end. So after this, my opponent resigned. Of course, he can move the king, but he's gonna get checkmated pretty fast with the queens and the bishops. Well, that's defended, but like bearing down here, it's made in view. So my opponent resigned after this move. So that was the first round game. And well, next round, next time. Thanks for watching.